start off with this, ladies and gentlemen. I saw more rookies make more plays. I saw more young rosters constructed by general managers look like they are playoff ready and ready to make a deep run. The Detroit Lions will host another playoff game. I don't believe that's happened in their history of the franchise, which is just hard to believe. But a well-played game between the Lions and the Rams last night, and the Lions play on. So much to look back on. As we start this off, maybe we'll ask this on X, the biggest surprise as far as your super wild card weekend, the thing that got you the most, and we can at least throw some nominees up there. Was it the Houston Texans destroying the Cleveland Browns? Was it the Packers going in and doing what they did to the Dallas Cowboys? And simply stated, Matt Stafford came back to Detroit, and Jared Goff took care of business with the Detroit Lions against his adversary at the same position.
But did he really? In the first half, he did. Mm-hmm. In the first half, Jared Goff looked great. In the second half, it did feel like you can't help. And I understand, Joe, you love your Detroit Lions.
Those are my Lions.
You can't help but it felt like they were holding on for dear life. I mean, 96 total offensive yards at one point.
But honestly,
midway through the fourth quarter.
That's the way most games are played, regular season or postseason. You're going to get that wave from the other team that you have to answer. And I tell you what, defensively, they put a hurt on Matthew Stafford, and the refs weren't tossing any flags, which kind of blew my mind. But
Justice for Puka, by the way. Yeah. Justice for Puka.
Oh, well, look, you guys know I've been raving about this guy forever. He sets a rookie receiving record, rookie yardage record, touchdowns, on and on and on. And I'm looking right now at the guys in their depth chart that are rookies or first or second year guys. And you can go with Turner and Young, 2 draft picks on the defensive side of the football. Of course, Puka. And it just drives me crazy that these football teams are getting major contributions out of guys that just basically got off of the draft bus, Matt, and instantly came in and started making plays for teams.
I mean, I think it's not just that, and I completely agree with you that the drafting is just – I mean, if you look at what the Texans draft mm-hmm. and the players they had in that game – that made big-time plays. Stroud, Will Anderson, Stingley, Petrie, Christian Harris, Jonathan Grenard, Tank Dell, who's not there anymore because he's injured, Nico Collins, Damian Pierce, also injured, but still an elite guy for them, Toa, Brevin Jordan, Xavier Hutchinson, right down the list, guys they drafted that are impact guys for them. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching that game, and I'm thinking, that's how you build a franchise. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see that and to see the Lions and think, all right. And then on top of all that, the whole operation is smooth. They're operationally sound. They're not jumping off sides. There's no pre-snap penalties. There's no dumb holds on a jet sweep. They're operationally sound, and they're smart in the way they play. Yeah. It's completely different is what it is.
The Los Angeles Rams in particular are such a fascinating case because they weren't supposed to be here. They weren't supposed to be a point away covering the spread. Yes, I'm glad I stuck with the Los Angeles Rams after all in our picks on Friday. In the first round in the Super Wildcard weekend against the Detroit Lions. It wasn't supposed to happen this way because this was a group that had 45 rookies on its 90-man roster, 45 first-year players. I want to run through the offensive line in particular for the Los Angeles Rams because I think it speaks to your point, Joe, mm-hmm. about needing your rookies to contribute, but it also speaks to development. So let's go from left to right. We'll begin with kind of like a 2-man platoon of sorts that they have at left tackle. Alaric Jackson, the Iowa Hawkeye, of course, has to, we got to begin with him. Left tackle, played a little bit of left guard last year. He is in his 3rd season, was an undrafted free agent after suffering an injury his final season at Iowa. He shares that left tackle spot with Joe Noteboom, who was drafted in the 3rd round by the Los Angeles Chargers in 2018. And so he's been around the block for a little bit as well. Let's move right on down the line. Steve Avila, Avila?
Yeah, Avila, I think it's a 2nd-round draft pick. I really know.
Right. 2nd-round draft pick from 2023.
Yeah.
36th overall pick. So that was rookie. Okay, so we get that. So let's keep going.
By the way, that's at an important position that this team really couldn't answer the entire year.
Correct. So now we go to the center. Brian Allen. Mm-hmm. Not Brian Allen in Lake City, coaching Columbia, or who played for the Seminoles. Brian Allen, the center 4th-round pick of the Los Angeles Rams in 2018.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything about him when they won the Super Bowl in 2021?
No.
Okay. Kevin Dotson, 4th-round pick of the Steelers in 2020. So, again, has been around the block, was kind of floating around. That's their right guard. And then the right tackle, Rob Havenstein, was a 2nd-round pick of the St. Louis Rams in 2015.
Yeah, and you can go down.
The point is
line.
that it's not just rookies that are suddenly contributing. There are a couple, but it's also guys that they developed that you didn't even know were on this roster, and they have developed them. Or they've gone out and they've found guys on the street, they've plug and played them, and the system and the foundation is so strong that it doesn't matter who the names on the back of the jersey
All right, so
are.
let me say this real quick. Stroud, Anderson, Stingley, all first-round picks. Nailed them.
Mm-hmm.
First-round picks are so critical. How often does this franchise nail first-round picks, okay?
Not very often.
Petrie, 2nd-round pick. Mechie, 2nd-round pick. Christian Harris, 3rd-round pick. Jonathan Grenard, 3rd-round pick. Tank Dell, 3rd-round pick. Nico Collins, 3rd-round pick. Damian Pierce, 4th-round pick. Toto, 5th round. Brevin Jordan, 5th round. Xavier Hutchinson, 6th round. The further they go, they're still developing players.
Yeah, and both of these teams are great examples, and the Detroit Lions is another one that I will get on and love on because the general managers, and you can go Les Snead, you can go obviously Brad Holmes up in Detroit, who has done a tremendous job. We'll play a soundbite from the locker room when Dan Campbell gives out game balls, and then you can go to the Houston Texans, where whenever they cleaned house, they needed to make a decision, and they went and not only is the new regime making hay down at Houston, it's the past regime with Cesario when he was going and getting some of the guys that Matt's describing, and no bigger is Nico, and that
it's
guy.
also development too.
Yeah.
I don't want to minimize what coaches
Right.
do with these guys.
Oh, no, but now
it's just
you're-
like college where it's recruiting and development. In the NFL, it's drafting and development.
But now you're talking about two different coaching staffs that have had hands on these players. And you can go back, if we want to go back in time, the thing that drives you crazy is getting guys in Duval and not developing them. And I think that's the biggest it ticks off all of Duval. And you guys hit the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures, 641-1010. If you do want to pop off, you can definitely do that. Hit the pop-off line, 207-7071, a little mo on a Macama Beer Company Monday, because you have to compare this football team to everybody else that's out there. If you have dreams and designs on going and playing for championships, you have got to look at what you have and what you don't have and compare it to what they have. That the ultimate recipe is to play on in the postseason. That is it. Nothing else. And when you think about it, it drives you a little crazy.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
If Nick Caserio didn't go, what was it, 8 for 8 in this past April's NFL draft, if he didn't bat 1,000, his head's probably on the chopping block, is it not?
Well, they cleaned house and they kept him. And so, yeah, perhaps.
Let's go through, because here's the truth of the matter. Jalen Petrie, great pick last year in the 2nd round. Derek Stingley Jr., great pick in the 1st round. Kenyon Green, been hurt this year. We'll see. John Mechie, obviously an unfortunate situation because he was diagnosed with leukemia immediately after being drafted. It's an unfortunate situation. Christian Harris, Damian Pierce, great picks. But then we go to that Nico Collins draft. What was Nico Collins before C.J. Stroud rolled into Houston?
Not a lot.
What was Brevin Jordan before C.J. Stroud rolled into Houston?
A developing tight end.
What was Jonathan Grenard before he had Will Anderson opposite him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ross Blacklock, their 2nd-round pick in 2020, he's playing for the Titans now after a brief cup of coffee here in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And so the point is that you have to commend Nick Caserio, and the reason that we're having this litany of Texans picks that we're saying looks great right now, because he hit on almost everybody in this draft class in 2023.
Yeah.
And that opened and unlocked other players. That's what I'm saying when I'm talking about the Rams and development. It is about you get certain foundational pieces that unlock other areas. Nico Collins is not doing what he's doing if Davis Mills is still his quarterback.
Yeah, look,
or if he had a different quarterback.
You want to talk about a guy unlocking things, it is that quarterback more than anything else. I mean, this cat has shown a tremendous amount of poise.
But you have to pick the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to pick the right quarterback. It's not as simple as saying, well, they picked that guy.
Right.
Right. At some point, when you're at 2 or 3 or 4, year after year after year, you have to pick the right guy.
Well, you add up the number of draft picks that are in the top 10, and you add up what teams have done with them. Jacksonville has failed more often than not with the luxury of top 10 picks. The luxury. And let's go back and think about what the LA Rams have done. The LA Rams did a I'll give you a bunch for one guy deal with Matthew Stafford. The LA Rams did I'll give you 2 first-rounders for Jalen Ramsey. The LA Rams said, I'll give you whatever you want. Let's go get Von Miller. Let's go get OBJ. You know, all these different things that went down with them. Not having a first-round pick since having Jared Goff as their number 1 overall pick going all the way back to 2016. And so it's nuts to think what Les Snead has been able to do. And we mentioned Puka, which he's my poster child, okay? Parker versus Puka, okay? And that's where they were. Parker went, 8 picks later, something in that neighborhood after
Puka's
Puka.
4th rounder, correct?
Fifth rounder.
Fifth.
Fifth rounder.
Tank stays healthy the entire season. He might have as good a season as Puka this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that type of guy.
Third rounder.
Yeah, drafted a little bit later on. And the other thing, when I go back to what the LA Rams have done, is they've done this without first-round picks. Without them. And then you take a look at what Detroit has done with what they were given. They were given those extra draft picks to go load up. Jahmyr Gibbs, they move up and make sure that they get a guy that they want. You can go down the line with the Brian Branches of the world, on and on with the playmakers that they have gotten. Remember, I mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown 3 years ago was a third round. I'm almost positive he was a third-round draft pick. Anyway, he's had over 300 catches in 3 years. You want to talk about a stud?
All-pro this year.
And Jamison Williams. They took a chance on him because he was coming off an injury.
To come, too.
Yeah, oh, my gosh.
He's on the come, baby.
I mean, that dude is, you get the brilliance along with the speed when he is completely comfortable with the knee, which is what he's had to, battle through. Oh, my gosh, that guy is something else. Then go to Sam Laporta. Just go on and on with the guys that they have made plays with, and it drives you a little batty. 641-1010. You can hit the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Let's get to the Dallas Cowboys. I expect you can fire up of that if you want, JJ, but I don't need it just now. But I expect that just start it off. Just give me that first part of it just for a second.
That just happened.
That's going to come at some point during our show with Mike McCarthy, is it not? It has to. Jerry Jones has to be beside himself thinking, I have said so many good things and glossy things about Big Mike, thinking that this is going to be our year. I finally relented and retired or put Jimmy Johnson in my ring of honor, and this is what I get. Dak Prescott, while he did not play well, had some junk yards late, and you certainly can throw some criticism his way. That defense, if I have it right, Dan Quinn is one of the hot candidates from the defensive side of the football to go take over one of these 7 openings that are out there. And they gave up on first down over 9 yards of play. Just imagine if you let that go down in a postseason game where you have averaged close to 40 points at home and you let that go down against Jordan Love, first ever position for him in the postseason.
It's not just Jordan Love.
Oh, there's so many others. I'm just saying he was the guy.
Right.
He was the trigger man against that defense.
He's the one throwing the passes. This postseason, and again, we will see how the San Francisco 49ers perform, but between Bobby Slowick, the offense coordinator for the Houston Texans, between Matt LaFleur, the head coach and play caller for the Green Bay Packers, this postseason so far has been a testament to the Kyle Shanahan tree and what they are able to do, how they scheme guys open. I mean, the Y leak to Musgrave for the touchdown, I mean, that was just completely blown coverage by the Cowboys. But schematically, how Matt LaFleur has blended what he did with Aaron Rodgers, what he did previously under the Shanahan regime, and found a way to make it work for Jordan Love and a bunch of receivers who, up to this point, yes, they're names, quote-unquote, but they're all under the age of 25. They're not household names by any stretch of the imagination outside of the Midwest. Yeah. And I think it is truly a testament to whatever the brain trust is out there in San Francisco. If you're the Jags, if you're anybody else that's looking for something to jumpstart your offense, you got to go get one of those play callers.
So listen to, at least in the first couple of rounds for the Green Bay Packers, Jalen Reed, a first-rounder, Dontavius Wicks, a second-rounder, Luke Musgrave, who was wide A open, came in this draft in the second round. Tucker Kraft in the third round. And you can go on and on down the line. Jalen Reed was a second-round draft pick, but has instantly made his name known. And the other part of it, the thing that gets you more than anything else, yeah, Jordan Love has sat for 3 years. He's learned. He's matured. He's been second-guessed. I second-guessed him. I thought he had arrived. Then I started second-guessing him again. And then to go out and do what he did, and against pressure, 7 of 8 with a massive amount of big plays. Ended up finishing 16 of 21, and he hit almost everybody in his route tree. It's just nuts what he was able to do. And you can go down the line on the defensive side of the football, what they've been able to do as well. And so you know who that is? That's Gutekunst, who Aaron Rodgers wanted to dispatch, okay? So Brian, I don't know your last name if I'm saying it correctly or not, is right now looking pretty good. And you are correct with Matt LaFleur, because we had this discussion about whether or not he was going to be able to look good minus Ron. Ron may be beating down the door again to get back up there.
You have to admit.
Never should have
to
left.
be fair, that's also on LaFleur, the development of
Correct.
Jordan Love.
I'm saying because
he was lost the first 2 years.
Yeah, but he was under Matt LaFleur that entire time.
Right,
so it's
right.
not like. But now he was the man, and they had to ride with him.
And they developed him.
I give LaFleur a ton of credit.
You have to admit, there is so much irony in the fact that the Packers, during Aaron Rodgers, 15 years there, never drafted an offensive skill player in the first or second round. I think it was something like that.
Yeah, but it was
The
very least in the
first
first round.
offseason that he's gone, they go, wait for it. Here's how they went. They went edge rusher in the first round. Don't worry. They stuck with tradition, Aaron. Everything's okay. Tight end, wide receiver, tight end, defensive end, quarterback, wide receiver. Like, you just can't make this up. They went with 5 of their first 8 picks because they had a treasure trove of picks, and they go all offense.
Yeah, maybe they were sticking it to him just a little bit. But the beautiful thing about what Ron did when he was up there is he would make chicken salad out of chicken poop, and they wouldn't necessarily toss him all the tools, but he still could make it happen. And of course, he had the luxury of Devontae Adams for the last handful of big years that he had up there. But how many great players was he able to throw the football to? And then he goes out, and when he leaves, they go out there and they say, we got to restock this cupboard. But honestly, I would Romeo Dobbs, I would rename myself. I try and rename every player out there. I would be a doob. I would just be an absolute doob, because that dude is a doobie, okay? And he's made plays. Wicks has made plays.
Said doob?
Yeah. That's what I would have changed my name legally. I would have said I'm a doob. But
no, he's a dub.
Yeah.
It's a
or
dub.
a dub too. That's fine.
Judge
you can go with
John
that.
Dubs. We always say that on this show.
Yeah, you can go with that. But I'm just thinking a doob. Come on, man. But he made plays. Wicks made plays. Reed made plays. And heck, we haven't even mentioned Christian Watson because he hasn't been 100% healthy.
Why are we going down this road?
Yeah.
The obvious is the obvious. The Cowboys were a more talented team.
Yeah.
They had the better quarterback, and they got annihilated.
Yeah, they
Yep.
did.
That's
Seven
the
pro-
road to go
seven
down.
Pro
okay?
Bowlers
Oh,
to
that's
0.
that's how we started. They gave up 48 points, more than how many games did Coach Campo call on defense before you'd have to add up to 48 points in the postseason?
What was Dak doing?
Yeah, Dak's at fault, but like I said earlier, please pay attention to this one. That defense gave up 9+ yards per play on first down.
I get it, but when your quarterback's turning the ball over, when your quarterback's making 3rd and 6 throws look like they're 3rd and 21
yeah,
throws.
he was terrible.
Terrible.
He was terrible, but how did they get to 27-0? Both sides of the ball.
I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is if you have an offense that can actually score points, you can sort of slow tempo a little bit, give your defense a chance to find something out that works on the sideline instead of going right back out there again.
They had scored an average of 40 points per game at home. They were the only unbeaten team at home coming into the postseason, and that happened. Oh, my gosh. All right, we got plenty more to get into. You guys jump in. 641-1010, Mokama Beer Company. We were there on Friday, had a great time. You could always have a good time serving coffee every single day, and then Tuesday through Sunday. And make sure those taps are ready to roll with all sorts of great creations. Make sure you check out Mokama.com, especially if you're heading out and picking up some craft as you celebrate anything. You can look for them ABC and Total, or you can head on up to Fernandina right there on South 8th Street. And they really want you to know about their Wildlight location, which is a satellite location. Still plenty of room, about 7,000 square feet with all that great craft right there in Wildlight up in Nassau County. XL Primetime, stay on this subject, and then we'll get into the latest in the college football world, where now Florida's pick next year to replace Billy Napier is already gone. He gone to Washington.